Pull that goddamn inmate down from there, Cartwright commanded. I stood frozen in place, my toes clenched in my boots. That's an order. A burning sensation tingled through my nerves. I rushed forward and pulled Frankie down with a hard thud. Ow, what the fuck, big guy? He squealed. Peters burst through the door with his 4 stooges. The mere sight of them caused Frankie to curl into the fetal position. That's a good boy, always following orders, Cartwright said as he moved towards me and placed a hand on my shoulder. But you should have let him go. Maybe he would have come back to save you. The sharp crack of Peter's baton sent my body into a seizure. I heard the shot at the base of my skull before I felt it. I fell to the ground, convulsing face to face with who I realized was the only person I could have trusted. What the fuck? Frankie cried as he wiggled away from the guards. What did you do that for? Get Russo back to his cell, Cartwright ordered. Stars danced in my vision as the room faded to darkness. Cartwright knelt next to my face to ensure I heard his words clearly. And prep our new inmate for the grinder. I must have passed out, because the next thing I remember was being dragged face down with my hands cuffed in front of me. I had a coppery taste in my mouth, and my vision was still blurry. The sensation forced me to vomit. Let me go! I tried to wiggle free, but my captor's grip was too firm. I'm a correctional officer. I work here. Not anymore. It was William's voice. He was dragging my 190-pound body at walking pace, and didn't sound the slightest bit exhausted by it. I told you not to ask any questions, not to disobey or cause problems. Look where it got you. I clawed at the floor in desperation. My fingernails made a high-pitched scratching noise before 2 of them lifted from my skin, and another was completely torn off. I clenched my hands at the sudden searing pain of the exposed nerve. Stop fighting. William's pace slowed momentarily. It'll only make them enjoy it. It'll all be over soon. I have a family, I yelled. They'll notice I'm gone, and they'll call the police. Cartwright doesn't leave loopholes. He's drafting your death certificate now. Probably gonna say you were shivved by an inmate on your first day. He'll offer your ex-wife $500,000 as a death benefit. She'll happily take it, and never question a thing. I tried to pull away, but Williams tightened his grasp on my ankle. It felt like I was being squeezed by a vice grip. I pushed on my cuffed hands, and he tugged my legs so hard I busted flat on my face. I let my cheek drag across the floor, leaving a snail's line of warm blood and teeth bits. I closed my eyes and thought about the inmate back in Guantanamo Bay. How he must have felt exactly how I felt. Helpless, terrified, regretful. Tears burned my eyelids as I realized I was just like Williams. I never hit the inmates in Gitmo, but I didn't do anything to help them either. I never made any reports or filed any grievances. I just stood there and watched. A good boy. Just like Cartwright said. Always following orders. I'd been complacent for the second time in my life. The first got me a false accusation. The later got me an appointment with the grinder. What is it? I sputtered. At least tell me what the grinder is. A deep sigh escaped William's lips as I heard a large metal door creak open. You'll learn soon enough, he said as he lifted me over his shoulder. I just wish it didn't have to be this way. Williams carried me into a decaying white operating room. A massive diesel-powered generator sat near an open dirt tunnel at the far end of the compartment. The tunnel's opening resembled a bear's cave. The tiled floor was battered to the brink of deterioration and stained brown from decades-old blood. He placed me into an ancient operating table, removed the handcuffs, and strapped me in place. I yanked my hands against the straps until my skin tore, and I jolted my body back and forth, slamming my head against the cold metal table until I ran out of breath. You don't have to do this, I exhaled. Yes, I do, he responded. Or I'll end up exactly where you are now. Williams walked over to the wall and slammed a red button. The operating room spurred to life. A massive surgeon's light flickered on above me, casting a spotlight on my body as Cartwright walked into the room with Izzy, the medical director. I hate to do this to you, son, Cartwright said, but you've caused too much trouble in my facility, you see. You had some real potential, and it just pains me to see it go to waste. Cartwright meandered around the room, casually picking up medical devices as he walked. Now you'll finally get to meet her. All your questions will be answered. Inmate Ismail is gonna get you prepped while Williams and I get the generator running. Izzy lurched forward, frowning as he cut my clothes free with medical shears. I arched my back at the sudden touch of the cold metal on my bare skin. He pulled a pre-filled syringe from a drawer beside the operating table and tightened a band around my left bicep. No, none of that. Cartwright grabbed his wrist. I want him to feel it. My eyes watered as I watched Cartwright and Williams leave the room. I'm sorry, Izzy whispered as he slipped a pill into my mouth. This is the best I can do. Chew it, so it works quickly. I shuddered at the chalky metallic taste the pill left in my mouth. The effect was almost immediate. My head felt heavy, and the world turned into a calming blur. Izzy set the unused syringe down on the bedside table and followed after Cartwright and Williams. I lulled my head back and forth, pulling weakly at the restraints. My breathing slowed, a warm sensation tingling from my feet all the way up to my head. It was euphoric. Chains clanked together as the diesel generator whirled and buzzed into action. The sound was deafening. It violently shook and shuddered, shaking the ground and ceiling around it. Dust fell like raindrops from above, cacophony of screams poured out from the tunnel, awakened by the sudden explosion of noise. The warm sensation turned cold in my veins, straightening my posture. I pulled and kicked, slamming my body against the restraints as the screams grew louder, moving their way out of the tunnel. Footsteps pounding faster and faster. A bitter chill poured into the room. Every light clicked out at once, blanketing me in darkness. A massive, spindly creature appeared at the tunnel opening. It clacked hungrily as it clawed towards me on all fours. I could barely make out its humanoid frame in the darkness, but I could see that it had a surgeon's mask over its skeletal face. It tilted its head back, and 100 deafening screams poured out all at once. My body trembled under the creature's hot breath. I tugged my left wrist in desperation, barely feeling the sensation of the skin degloving from my hands as it pulled free from the restraints. I reached my now skinless hand up and pulled the mask away with a wet slap. A gaping hole rested where its mouth should be. It slowly bent towards me, its gaping maw acting as a vacuum. I tried to scream, but the air was sucked out of me. My bloodied left hand flailed helplessly for a moment, before weakly falling to my side. I fought to inhale, but every ounce of breath was being sucked out. I felt a sharp, intense line of pain slide down the left side of my torso. I looked down to see the creature cutting an incision into my body with a razor-like claw. I couldn't fight anymore. I looked into the creature's empty, expressionless eyes, hoping for a miracle. My stomach bloated as it slid its bony hand inside of me, pulling out my intestines and throwing them beside me with a wet plop. I squeezed my eyes shut and tried to remember the euphoric feeling from before. I tried to remember my daughter's face. I tried to remember any happy memory I could. Still, the sensation of having the scream sucked out of my throat was too overwhelming to focus on anything else. A heaviness crept over me. I felt the creature hesitate for a split second just before the alarm blared into the room. The creature jolted away and scurried back into the tunnel, intimidated by the explosion of noise. The alarm was silenced almost as quick as it had started, the generator dying at the same time. The lights flickered back on. I turned my head to the side and puked. Everything was a blur. The pain unimaginable. My head fell to the left to see the metal door slam open. My eyes crossed, double vision blurring as I failed to focus on the person shuffling into the room. Please, I mumbled as I started to lose consciousness. Just kill me already. The blurry figure leaned towards my face and whispered as the restraints clicked free. I'm gonna get you out of here, big guy. Greetings, friends and fiends. It is I, Chronicler. We here at Creepy Spaghet would like to thank Dismal Apparition for allowing us to tell their story. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe to stay updated on these terrible tales. And make sure to check out the author in the links below. If you're interested in having your story narrated, be sure to reach out to our humble overseer, as he continues his journey to pull the darkest stories from the infinite depths of the internet. Until next time, fiends. And remember, we are darkness.